Hello and welcome to Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman. With us on the phone right now from Washington, D.C. is Reince Priebus, chairman of the Republican Party. Reince, good to talk to you again.
Hey, nice to talk to you too.
All right, so you came out swinging this week with an op-ed piece which appeared on Politico's website titled Lies, Leaks, and Double Standards. We often hear lie is a very strong word in Washington, so tell us what specifically you're talking about.
Well, obviously people have told many different stories in regard to this Benghazi story, obviously the IRS scandal that has been going on, and the story changes, and people had said that nobody in the White House knew anything about it, and then we find out that in fact the Chief of Staff knew something about it. We were told that in the case of Benghazi that there was never a call that it was an act of terrorism, and then we find out that the CIA called it an act of terrorism immediately, and then we find out that in fact the White House had been reviewing, or at least part of email chains where the CIA and the State Department had been arguing with each other about all of these things. And then the double standard, of course, is that leaks that seem to put the White House in good light, like leaks in regard to the killing of Osama bin Laden, which is a good thing. Those are strategically leaked. Pictures from the war room and the Navy team, the SEAL Navy team, SEAL Team 6. Gabriel Gomez, a U.S. Senate candidate up in Massachusetts, has been talking about this. And the point is that when leaks seem to work in the president's favor, they seem to all come out. But when they don't work in his favor, we have obviously subpoenas and massive investigations by the DOJ.
So would you say that there are examples of lies in all of those cases we talked about, the IRS, Benghazi, the wiretapping and surveillance of reporters? There are clear-cut lies in each one of those scandals?
Well, I don't know. I mean, when your kids don't seem to want to tell you the truth, or they don't want to come out with the true facts in the story, and it takes months and months to start creeping out truth and fact, I mean, I think that's something, and that's behavior that isn't really worthy of people that are trying to serve this country with honor and dignity. And certainly this has been a very frustrating process.
It's frustrating to say the least. There's been a lot of outrage in the GOP and even on the Democratic side, and rightly so. But there's also been some folks who have pushed that a little bit further, calling for impeachment, saying people need to go to jail. Do you think those calls for impeachment, maybe criminal charges at this point, since there's still a lot we obviously don't know, might be a little premature?
Well, I mean, listen, I kind of get, it's amusing that apparently people in the press are, their idea of balanced journalism is to play traffic cop as to what's appropriate and what's not, and what's too far and what isn't too far. I mean, in my mind, I think people ought to just figure out what the facts are and connect the dots and see where the investigation leads. But, having a debate and taking up paper to decide which Republican is going too far and which isn't, I think it's sort of like, off the rails a little bit. I think it's more important to figure out what the facts are of this investigation.
Yeah, duly noted. Talking about the IRS specifically, the director, Lois Lerner, she's just been placed on administrative leave. A lot of people say this should have happened a long time ago. I'm sure you agree with that, but what are some of the other steps the administration still needs to take, and take them right away, to prove to Congress and the American people that they are fully committed to getting to the bottom of this scandal in particular?
Well, obviously they should get rid of everybody that was involved in this. They can quickly figure out who those people are, and they can conduct internal interviews and get rid of those people. They can release all of the documents that people have requested, the documents and correspondence among employees and superiors that were involved in investigating this report. They can seek information from everybody that was affected. I'm sure they can find very easily the records of letters and traffic going out of both the Cincinnati office and the IRS headquarters as to whom the extra scrutiny and what groups were being harassed and questioned. All that information is available, and the IRS can release all of those documents so that we can see exactly what has happened and to whom all of these communications were occurring within the agency, and what groups and individuals were targeted. We know that this thing runs very deep, but it can be done easily by the administration and the people in charge releasing the information, or it can be done very slowly, but methodically by Darrell Issa and Trey Gowdy and the rest of them, and that's what I think is going to happen.
But right away, you'd like to see some more personnel moves at the top of the IRS immediately.
Well, I mean, listen, I think so. I think the American people expect that when folks are working on the taxpayer dime, that if they abuse the office, which appears to be what's happening, I think there should be consequences. I think that's a reasonable position to take. But I think, at a higher level, I think that the administration, whether it's at the White House or within the IRS, should release all of these documents and just show the world exactly what has happened, because it's going to happen. So I mean, it can either be a slow bleed, or it can just they can just come clean.
Yeah, sooner or later, it's all going to come out. There's a lot to talk to in terms of scandals. Yesterday, during the president's speech on national security, he took time again to call for a shield law for reporters in response to the DOJ's investigation and wiretapping of the AP and Fox News. We've heard this from him before, of course. We also just learned that Attorney General Eric Holder signed off on that search warrant for Fox News' James Rosen. Now, are these pleas from the president for a shield law totally disingenuous, so long as Eric Holder still remains the Attorney General?
Well, look, I mean, the Attorney General is the person that he said one of his life endeavors was to try the 9/11 terrorists in civilian court, and reading the Miranda rights to the Christmas Day bomber, Fast and Furious and contempt and everything else. So, the problem with the AG and unfortunately with our president, the biggest problem is, they're always keen on solutions after the catastrophe, right? There's always a solution after they get caught. So I think it's just a little, it's a lot too late. We need answers on these scandals. We need answers on what happened in Benghazi, which is a total tragedy. People's lives were lost. The infringement on people's liberties within this investigation on the using the IRS is the worst of all, as far as using the government and the hand of government to intimidate people. It doesn't get any worse than this. So when you consider the fact that our country was founded on religious and economic freedom, and now we have an administration that would take the tax man and intimidate people that didn't agree with him politically, I think that's a big problem. But to what level it rises is yet to be seen. But I think the president and the administration could do a lot in making this move along much quicker.
Is it too late for Holder? Do you think it's time for him to go?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Holder should resign, and I don't, quite frankly, politically, I don't even understand how the president puts up with it. I mean, he's in the press every month with one scandal after the next. I honestly don't get it, that'll be yet to be seen. Why that is? I mean, why the president keeps Eric Holder around? Who knows?
Well, maybe we'll find that out at a later date as well. I also want to talk to you real quick while we have you here. I know you've been working hard, traveling the country. You had an appearance with Senator Rand Paul not too long ago. You've been working on this minority outreach for the Republican Party, promoting the idea of inclusivity. But in Virginia, the GOP just nominated a man named E.W. Jackson for lieutenant governor. He has linked liberalism to the Ku Klux Klan. He compared homosexuality to pedophilia and doubled down on those comments when asked about him. There's also been this comparison in this race to what happened to Todd Akin in the Senate race in 2012. Do you think Jackson's nomination might actually do more harm to the GOP than good?
Oh, I don't know. I honestly haven't seen all these quotes, and I haven't talked to Mr. Jackson. I will, obviously, eventually. We're very heavily involved in Virginia, work with Ken Cuccinelli. Every couple days we're on the phone together, and we're heavily involved in Virginia. I'll have a chance to talk to Mr. Jackson. I haven't read all of these comments. Obviously, I've heard a little bit about him, but I'd love to talk to him first before I start making comments about what his comments are. And
sure, I understand that. There have been other examples as well. There was the Michigan Republican committeemen who posted that thing on Facebook that referred to homosexuality as a filthy lifestyle. There was the Republican Congressman Don Young of Alaska who used the term wetbacks when referring to migrant workers. How concerned are you that some of these comments, I mean, because they're already out there and the liberals are talking about they're using this as ammo against the Republican Party. How concerned are you that this is going to undo some of the work that you've been doing?
Well, I mean, I was pretty clear on some of those other comments, and I think that we've got to drape our principles in grace, love, and respect, and that's certainly the calling of the New Testament, and it's something that I believe in, and that's something I try to do every day in my life. But look, our engagement is going to be the biggest engagement process we've ever gone through at the RNC in an off year. I mean, we've already been hiring people, getting folks out in the communities, and we're going to be hiring folks in states from communities to work in those communities, paid help across the country, telling the story of the Republican Party of equality and freedom and opportunity, something that we haven't done enough of lately. I think all people would agree that we've sort of lost our history in our party. We don't tell people about it anymore. But we're going to start doing it. And none of those things are going to stop us from doing that. And look, you can't carpet the world, but you can control your own organization and what we're trying to do. And I think we're going to make a lot of people proud over the next year and a half as far as how big and how bold we're going to get at the RNC.
All right, well, on a completely separate topic, I just wanted to ask you real quick and get your take on this deal with the cellular phone company Sprint. Satellite provider Dish Network is now running ads, and I think you may have seen these. They're in some of the local papers there in Washington, D.C., that if Sprint is purchased by this Japanese company called SoftBank, it could jeopardize national security because they charge that control of an American communication company by a foreign interest could put American communications, American companies at risk. What's your take on this?
I'm not really sure what the whole story behind that, John. I'm happy to talk to you about it at another time, but I really don't know the full extent of the facts involved in that.
Okay, no problem, no problem. And real quick, Chairman, just one more question for you. I just want to get your take now that the Senate has pushed the immigration bill out of out of committee. Just real quick, if I could get your take on what you think, how the immigration bill is moving forward.
Look, I mean, I think that it's yet to be seen. I mean, I think there's a big discussion happening even I'd say even today on the bill, and I think there's different interests involved, and a lot of people want to make sure that we've got secure borders and that we don't end up in a situation where 3 years from now or 5 years from now we're debating whether 14 years is too long or 5 years of back taxes is too much, and then we're negotiating against ourselves, and if you don't have a secure border, well then obviously that's a big problem. So I think all those things are still being worked out. I think it's important to know that Marco Rubio is really, been quite a leader here, but I think others have important voices too, and I think we have a diverse caucus that is taking on all of these issues intelligently. I know that there's diverse opinion within our party on this issue, and we're taking all of that into consideration. But obviously, when you have a Democratic-controlled Senate and a Republican-controlled House, it's going to take a whole lot of work and a whole lot of talking.
Well, Chairman, we do appreciate you very much sticking around and answering those questions for us. It was a pleasure talking to you again. Have a great day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, and thanks for watching Newsmax TV.